I'm able to live comfortably on my income, plus save for the future, being able to buy a house. There's land for sale that's actually affordable. When you look at my wage dollar for dollar, sort of, I'm technically making less in the US, but what I take home is more. Lean on the immigration team at NurseMatch. I know I was in contact with Liz constantly and needing a lot of reassurance, but that's what they're there for, and they're so helpful with that. Since I came down here and started with Ocean, I'm not feeling that pre-shift anxiety. I had that back home quite a bit.
There's a moment when everything changes,
When a nurse leaves behind what's familiar to answer a deeper calling.
and when a leader makes a decision that doesn't just impact the numbers.
But people, teams, and lives,
Welcome to the Culture Shifters.
where nurses and leaders transform the culture of care,
These are the stories of those who crossed borders
challenge the system,
and chose to lead differently.
because changing healthcare starts from within. Welcome to our show. This is Kim England and Leisha Kreitzer, and we have Megan here with us. And Megan is a registered nurse, originally from Devon, Alberta, Canada. Megan has 11 years of experience as both a registered psychiatric nurse and registered nurse spanning inpatient psychiatric care, oncology, emergency psychiatric care, and addiction, mental health stabilization. I can't even say that. After relocating to Corpus Christi, Texas through NurseMatch, Megan worked both geriatric and adult psychiatric inpatient units and now serves as intake nurse at Oceans Behavioral Hospital. Today, she shares her journey of moving to the United States and embarking on a new chapter in her nursing career. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're so excited that you have joined us and just kind of curious, take us back to that first thought that you had that maybe your future is in the United States and, what sparked that idea.
So initially, we kind of started looking at travel nursing. I've always been interested, but never really knew how to go about it. I knew that I would love to practice elsewhere, practice abroad, but didn't really know where to start. So I know I went to one of the hiring fairs that NurseMatch had, and we flew down there to Toronto just to kind of see, what it was all about and what you guys were offering. So we went to the hiring fair, and I had a lot of different employers to speak with, which was great to kind of get some information. And really, it was all about, that financial freedom. We were really struggling back home, and to be able to have that and, of course, live somewhere new and have a fresh start, that was something that was really appealing to me.
Now, if I remember correctly, I hope I'm not making the wrong assumption. Did you bring your husband with you to the
Yes,
career
I
fair?
did.
Okay, I
Yeah.
do remember you then. Okay, I do
Yeah.
remember meeting both of you there. That's amazing.
Yeah.
He was really excited and had lots of questions, and you could
Mhm.
tell he is definitely a big cheerleader of yours and ready to support you with whatever you decided.
Yeah.
So, what would you say as far as the journey? What maybe was your biggest hope that helped you make the decision? What were you really
Well,
hoping for?
I think for me, it was I wanted to do travel nursing, but I wanted to stay within my field because I specialize in psychiatry. That's what
Right.
I've always done. That's where my passion lies. So I didn't really know if that was possible with travel nursing or relocation, anything like that. I didn't know if there'd be a need for that.
Right.
But then come to find out that, there is a need and there is a place for me. So that was really exciting for me. And now I'm working in the field that I love, and I get to live by the ocean too. So,
I love that.
yeah.
Has there been anything that has surprised you the most about working in the U.S. or in a U.S. hospital?
I think initially my thoughts about working in the US were totally different from what it actually is like. I thought it was very, profit focused. I thought that I was going to be charged for every piece of tape or glove that I used. That's the kind of mindset I had. But to find out that, like, especially for the clientele, the patient demographics that we get in psychiatry, that we're able to actually help people who need it, despite where they come from financially. We're able to kind of fund their admissions and things like that. So,
Right. And I know, especially coming from two different types of healthcare systems, the socialized versus, our system here, Canadian nurses have a lot of hesitancy and there's a lot of fear, around that. And I think for me, I just like it's whatever we're used to is what we're comfortable with. But
Mhm.
I think it would be interesting to hear your insight since you've been here for a few years. What is your opinion now? There's no perfect healthcare system. I think both of them
Mhm.
are greatly flawed. They could all use great improvement. But if, a nurse is concerned about that, what light could you shed on that as far as your experience?
Mhm.
You kind of already led into that a little bit, but is there any other information that you could share about that? I just think that's a really interesting fact that you've brought up.
I think it really depends on your employer. So you have a lot of variety
Right.
here to pick and choose who you want to work for and if their values align with your own. So I think that's really nice about the States is you have so many options. Back home there's limited options. They all kind of seem to go by the same set of rules, which is similar here, like, there is that standard of care, but you have a lot more options to choose. Who do you wanna work for? What do they value? What do they see in you, and where do they see you going in the future? So, I think that's really nice.
That's awesome. I know we get a lot of questions from nurses about cost of living. So tell us a little bit about what you've experienced, cost of living wise, living there in Texas compared to Canada.
I think we're able to afford so much more down here. I know back home, my dream was always to get a little piece of land and, have a home to my own and be able to get some animals and things like that. But that was just not happening for me. It was just not possible. Whereas here, I'm able to live comfortably on my income plus save for the future. And there's so many options about, being able to buy a house. There's land for sale that's actually affordable. Our grocery bills, huge difference with that, and just rent, everything, utilities. We're seeing that like we're not down to the last dollar of the paycheck every 2 weeks like I was back home. I actually have money that I can save. We can go do fun things. We can take a trip
Right.
at to Houston or Austin or go to a show or we got a baseball game coming up that we're going to. So there's things that we could do and actually travel and save for things like that.
That's amazing.
Mm.
When you initially were quoted the offer here in the United States, from an hourly rate perspective, was it a little bit concerning for you not being adjusted yet to the differences in taxes and, of course, the exchange rate?
Yes, yes. When you look at my wage dollar for dollar, sort of, I'm technically making less in the US, but what I take home is more. What I actually get to use to live on is more. There's incentives, there's bonuses, there's things that we just don't have back home.
Right.
And I think I was worried initially, especially knowing that like we might be single income household for a little bit. But I mean, there's potential to earn, there's picking up extra shifts that are available. I've got a raise since I've come down here, like just things like that. So the potential is there, and what you take home is actually more than what I was getting back home.
I'm glad to hear that because, we typically try to explain that and it's difficult to see on paper until I think you actually live it and then
Mhm.
experience it for yourself. So I thank you for kind of, bringing light to that as well.
Yeah. I mean, I was
So,
very worried about it too. I was, but
right. Well, I think rightfully so too, especially when you're getting quoted, an hourly rate, like you said, that's less than what you were making already in Canada.
yeah.
So can you tell us about the time, when you did cross the border and how was that experience, with the border agent, the whole TN visa process? Can you just share how that experience was for you?
So it was a very long, process. It took a long time to get all the paperwork in. It was a lot of waiting, a lot of like providing documents to get that visa process started. It took me a little bit of time, but then when it was approved, we were able to go down. We work with the immigration team at NurseMatch, and they provided a whole packet full of information for me to take down to the border. So if they had any questions, they could just look at that, thankfully. And it was a little scary because, the news at that time was saying some things that were making me
Right.
worried about crossing the border at that time. But it was actually pretty easy as soon as they saw, my offer letter for employment. I had all my ducks lined up. It worked out great. The only issue we had at the border was our animals that we were bringing down, unfortunately. So they change it all the time. I mean, they get different things at the border, regulation wise. So what we thought we were able to bring down, we had a rabbit and a bird. We actually weren't able to bring the bird back. So we had to
Oh
take the bird
no.
to a couple hours back home, to a lady in Saskatchewan, actually, and she took the bird in. So we found a home for the bird. The bunny was okay, but that was a big
Okay.
hiccup. Hmm.
That's a good note to make. So, any nurses out there, if you have birds, I don't guess you're gonna be able to bring your birds with you.
Yeah, check like the day
Okay.
before you go because it
Yes.
changes so thickly.
Yes. That's interesting. I mean, as long as we've been doing this, Megan, I don't think I've heard that.
I don't either. I haven't either.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness.
So, what about the green card? Now, have you decided with your hospital to move forward with the green card, and how's that process been?
Yes. So they went forward with the green card. They actually did it earlier than we expected, which was nice
Great.
to know that like they wanted me to stay, I had a home there. So they started that process and now we're just in the waiting game. So everything's been sent in. We're just waiting for the approval.
Fantastic. Now, is your spouse able to work yet since that's been filed?
Not yet. We're not in
Okay.
that stage quite yet. So still on that single income and we can't cross the border at all. That was another kind of thing that was new for us is that, you know, in hindsight, we should have planned a trip back home prior to submitting all of those documents because it
Okay.
happened really fast where it was like, you can't cross the border. So we're just in that waiting stage right now.
Gotcha.
Well, that's good to share with nurses as well as a
Right.
tip, once they do start that adjustment of status with the green card to make sure, like you said, to wrap up everything back home while you're in that waiting area.
Hmm.
Definitely. So before we kind of transition into, a different phase of topics, anything about the journey or relocation, you know, the immigration process that you feel like you experienced that you'd like to share?
I would say just lean on the immigration team at NurseMatch. I know I was in contact with Liz constantly and needing a lot of reassurance, but that's what they're there for. And they're so helpful with that because, I mean, of course, I had my reservations, but we had everything lined up. I would say just to make sure that you do plan a trip home prior to submitting those documents for the green card, because now we're just kind of waiting. And I would say for relocation, there's so many options. So make sure you look around. We actually rented an apartment without seeing it, just talking to the ladies, over the phone and seeing
Mhm.
pictures. And it turned out great. We're right on the bay, we're right on the water. But we just looked at reviews and things like that just to kind of make our choices.
Yeah. Sounds like you made a great decision as far as
Yeah.
the location. That's amazing. So,
Hmm.
as far as the nursing culture, do you feel accepted? Do you enjoy the nursing culture where you're at? And is there any difference to where you were in Canada?
I definitely feel accepted. Everyone was very welcoming. I've kind of been, trademarked the Canadian at work. But I mean, everybody's been very accepting. I've made friends at work, which is great because, of course, we didn't know too many people down here. And I feel like the culture itself, it's very similar to back home. Similar in the sense that, like, it's a team kind of nursing, you're working together, things like that. But small differences. But yeah, I think it's been great so far.
That's awesome. So, how has joining your hospital changed you, not just as a nurse, but as a person?
Well, since I came down here and started with Ocean, I'm not feeling that pre-shift anxiety. I had that back home quite a bit, just that anxiety. I worked in emergency and we were just overwhelmed with the amount of patients we were seeing. It was just, you'd get that fear in you every single day about what was going to happen or how you're going to manage. And since coming to Oceans, it's like, you have administration that deals with things. They kind of separate the tasks so you're not doing all of it. There's behavioral health techs to help on the floor. Then there's an admissions nurse, a discharge planner. They kind of separate those roles so it doesn't lie all on the nurse to do everything. We have like RNs on the floor that do like the leadership aspect. And then there's medication nurses, the LVNs. So you're not having to do meds, admissions, discharges, all of it. So,
Right, right. That's good to hear as far as the different types, like the kind of support that you can, expect to receive as well. Because I know there's different structures and different healthcare systems. So, I'm glad to hear that you don't have as much, stress thinking about going to work. Nobody likes that.
yeah.
So, this podcast is about culture shifters. And, we actually came up with that title because one of our hospital clients had shared that the nurses that they're bringing in, from Canada are truly making a positive impact at their hospital with the culture and the positivity that they're bringing and just the gratitude, that they have. So I'm curious, who has been a culture shifter in your life and what did they do that changed you?
I feel like for me, like, do you mean in my personal life?
Yeah, personal. It doesn't have to be work
Okay.
related. Yeah.
Honestly, I'd have to say my husband,
Oh,
he really was a big supporter. He was advocating for us making this move even when I was scared. And, I'd gotten offers from NurseMatch and I declined them because I was so afraid, and I felt like I had that imposter syndrome. I
right.
really didn't think I was good enough. And, he's always my biggest fan and he really made me believe in myself that I could do this and I could be successful. So I feel like that was huge for me. It was just giving me the courage to be able to do it.
I love that. That is awesome. So, if you could sit down with a Canadian nurse who's thinking about making this journey, what one piece of advice would you give them?
I would say, like, just do it. I know, like, you think about it so much and you just
Mhm.
drive yourself crazy thinking about what if that you never really take the leap. But once you do take the leap, and like, yes, it's hard. Moving down was hard. Packing everything up, it was a big change, of course. And
Mhm.
I missed my family, all of the above, but I'm just so much happier now. Like, I can't express waking up every day and just being here. And, there's so many opportunities that have come up. We're really able to live out our dreams now. So I would just say be brave. And if you're thinking about it, just try it. Because, I mean, the worst that happens is you go back home. That's
Right,
it.
right. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's just, I think that it's very heartfelt. And I think you're probably speaking directly into a lot of the fears that some people have. And just, it's so easy for us to put off our dreams. And before we know it, we're running out of time. So I appreciate that, sincerity. And, back to, the fact that we call this show the Culture Shifters. We truly believe that every person has ability in healthcare to make it better. And, before we let you go, Megan, I'm curious, what's one simple thing that every listener could do this week to help the culture wherever they work?
I would say the big thing, especially in nursing, but anywhere you work, is just not to gossip. I think that's the
Mhm.
biggest thing is like people will talk and people lose focus of like why you're there. And they
Right.
lose focus of, you're here to help people. You get caught up in, what's happening around you. But just remember why you're there and what makes your job rewarding in the end,
Right.
to not kind of play into that. So that would be my biggest thing for this week is to, you know, just focus on that.
That's great advice for living,
Hmm. Yeah.
period.
Just focus on you.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you, Megan, so much for your time. You truly are just, it's been so sweet to visit with you, and you're just glowing. You look really happy. And I just hope that, Nurse Match will always have a special place in your heart because we truly appreciate every one of our nurses that takes a risk on us and lets them have a small part, in the journey that you've made. So
Okay. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Kim, anything else?
I don't think so. Like I said, or like Leisha said, Megan, we appreciate you and we appreciate everybody that is listening in. And the one comment I know that Megan said is just do it. So if you've been on the fence for a while, take Megan's response there and just do it.
Perfect. All right, everyone. Well, until next time, make a difference and impact your culture. Thanks for joining us on the Culture Shifters.
Thank you for joining us on the Culture Shifters.
If this story resonated with you,
Share it with someone who needs to hear it.
and if you're a nurse feeling called to something more,
We see you and we'd be honored to be a part of your journey.
and if you're a healthcare leader committed to stronger,
More sustainable culture, we'd love to connect.
you can learn more and continue the conversation with us at NurseMatch.com.
Until next time, keep showing up
Keep leading with purpose.
and keep shaping the culture of care.